ActionSA says the ANC should be held accountable for plunging the country into darkness and sacrificing the safety and livelihoods of citizens. The party's utterances come in the wake of a damning answering affidavit by the former Eskom CEO André Ruyter, where he indicated that the power utility lost its ability to invest in new electricity generation back in the 90s and has since requested approval from the state to build new generation capacity. ActionSA, UDM and 17 others are going to court to declare government's response to load shedding as unconstitutional and breaching a number of fundamental human rights. Let's get more detail now, and we're joined by Gillian Benson, ActionSA Head of Strategic Litigation. Ms. Benson, thank you very much for your time. Let's start with the strength of your case. You know, half the time when we speak about legalities, it's about going to court with a reasonable prospect of victory. Where's yours based, or what is yours based on?
I think that, this time we've had to put politics aside because we have fundamental human rights at stake here, and lives, quite frankly. So unfortunately, when the state doesn't want to do what is required of it for the public, we have to ask the judiciary to intervene. And this is yet again one of those examples. So the parties involved in the matter have put aside our political differences, and we are hoping that we get some action plan out of Eskom and government to now be accountable to citizens for the disaster that is our electricity supply. Yeah,
all right. So I accept, politics aside, and that's what you have agreed upon as a group of parties that are going to court. Again, I ask the question, what is the strength of your case?
On some of the relief that is sought, I think our prospects are very strong. I do believe that the courts will recognize that children in educational facilities as well as patients in hospitals do need to be protected in these circumstances. And if they're able to keep ministers exempted from load shedding, they should be able to do it for the most vulnerable in our communities as well.
Minister Gordhan was interviewed on this channel just yesterday, and he says what Mr. Ruyter had to say about the issues at Eskom, at least for now, it is based on allusions, allegations, perhaps a simpler word. Do you think that that is part of what propels you to go to court, this denialism, if you want to call it that, but also people in authority who seem to have information but have simply not done the right thing, and that is to go to law enforcement because you are aware of something that is going on at an institution that is obviously against the law?
Well, I think let me deal with the first part of that and then try and unpack the rest of what you've said. So it's interesting for Mr. Gordhan or Minister Gordhan to say that yesterday, because at the time that Mr. Ruyter deposed to the affidavit, he was duly authorized to do that by Eskom. And he gives numerous examples in his affidavit of instances where he has approached law enforcement and instances where law enforcement were made aware, for instance, the Chancellor House situation where the ANC received monies from Hitachi that were aimed at fixing or providing boilers to Medupi and Kusile, which just wasn't done. So it's not that the authorities or those up above don't know about the shenanigans that have been ongoing since at least 1998. Certainly over the years and well before Mr. Ruyter's time, it appears that these allegations were raised with Ministers Koko and Mr. Brian Molefe at the time that they were in charge of Eskom. So I find it disingenuous now to say that Mr. Ruyter kept quiet and didn't bring it to the authorities' attention. Certainly, I would say that even the President's affidavit, which has been filed, confirms that these problems are well known within Eskom and within Cabinet.
Perhaps a slightly crisper question. When you say you are then going to court in an effort to declare government's response to load shedding as unconstitutional. Which element of the response? Is it the declaration of the state of disaster coupled with a minister of electricity that is soon going to be appointed? I'm trying to get a sense as to which part of government's response to load shedding you are saying actually this element must be declared unconstitutional.
Well, I think the failure to provide a fundamental service to citizens of this country is unconstitutional. It's not dependent on the national state of disaster that they've declared. I don't think that takes it any further. I believe that the government, the Minister of Energy, notwithstanding the Minister of Electricity that we're yet to be advised who, have a duty in terms of the relevant legislation to make this fundamental right available to its citizens, and at the very least to have maintained the infrastructure for our benefit, certainly, and especially the poor.
Sure. Something has been said in the last couple of days, and I think it was said by a number of people, although I can't put specific names to this assertion, because it is an assertion. And I want to put it to you as a question. André Ruyter, including the president, in fact, said that this issue at Eskom is a creation of a non-response from government when it was forewarned many, many years ago that there would be a crisis with regards to the provision of electricity in the country. And therefore, it begs the question, do you think that this is, first of all, a self-created crisis and that has just been allowed to snowball over the years? And now, declarations of disaster are being made, but there are people who are extremely worried about the consequences of corruption, possible corruption, given the COVID pandemic that we've just come.
I think people are concerned about a state of disaster being declared and worrying about how the previous one was dealt with. Many of the regulations that were imposed certainly served no purpose for the ill that they were trying to prevent. But in the current circumstances, we don't even have regulations, so I'm not quite sure what they intend to do with the current state of disaster. Be that as it may, I don't think these are just assertions. I think we have confirmation on the affidavits received, certainly by the President and Mr. Ruyter, that this is the state of play. There is corruption at play. They are aware of it, and it's throw your hands up in the air and say, we know it's a self-created situation over the years, and at least since 1998, as per their affidavits. This is not my version, that's theirs. And they just say, but I'm sorry, we can't fix it. And if you demand that we do, there's going to be a total collapse. So, you know, in seeking for them to now show some accountability, there's these looming threats made to all of us as citizens.
Thank you very much for your time. That's Gillian Benson. She is from ActionSA, the head of strategic litigation there.